My name is Jeff Schneider. I'm a painter, Studio 312. I mainly work figuratively, which is a new phenomenon. When I think I first met you, I was working non-objectively, completely abstract. And then over the years here in New York, I've just kind of grown and changed a bit. Although I do consider the narrative just as abstract as an abstract piece. In other words, I'll offer a story, but it's up to the viewer to help finish it along. You know, I'll give you hints and leeways, but I think it's up to the viewer to kind of make up their own story.
It's interesting, if I can pick a little bit on that, you know, I see you saying abstraction, but look at your work. Your work is essentially an abstraction. You know, because you're breaking down the human figure and taking parts that tell your story.
True.
So you're removing from the context of the full body to a small part that you identify with. To me, there's a sort of abstraction.
No, it's very true. I've always been interested in what's between things, I guess you'd say. Yeah, I guess what's interesting, putting things together that you wouldn't normally expect. From, like you said, you take a piece here and a piece there. Yeah, that's very observant, juvenile. Very good, very good.
You are here, if I'm not mistaken, since 2005.
Right, you invited me over when you had the very first 6 or 7, and I was under lease over there. So
exactly. And then you came in, and you know, to me, Jeffrey, it's so fascinating to see an artist for so long and your development.
Sure.
You know, what you're doing here, and I see you're getting one show, another exhibition, one thing here, another there. You know, we had the fundraising auction.
Oh, that's right. That went
You
well.
donated a piece. Your piece helped to raise a lot of money as well. You know, I have seen your work at White Box, where I am also a board member.
That's right.
And I saw your work being well desired. You know, I take from abstraction, usually we tend kind of to dig in ourselves to find that link, that connection point, what turns me on. You know, what turns you on your work?
Well, for the last 4 or 5 years, the silhouette of a cowboy has been kind of a jumping off place. And I think with all the connotations with the cowboy, the myths of cowboys, and all the, you know, where you can grab all that work from the movies and the films, and also what kind of in an existential cowboy way, you know, what he stands for and represents: freedom, autonomy, kind of absurdity, sometimes a ruthlessness, sometimes a sensuality. But again, that goes back to what I think you find in a great abstract work of art too, you know. And then again, I can kind of combine it with the figure or pieces of this to kind of plot along the narrative in some way.
Sort of fragments,
right?
That you connect.
I had one person once said in my earlier work, it was like a desktop. It was spinning, and all of a sudden it stopped with all these different, you know, icons and languages and images and tones, colors, you know, all the things that make up a great painting. But
Right.
I've kind of pared it down, I have to say. It's getting a little more. The figure is becoming more isolated, I think. I think I've gotten better at it too, you know.
Yeah.
My own language, my own style.
I noticed that, well, I didn't ask you before if I could mention that, but you exhibited with Ross Blackner, which happened to be one of my favorite artists that I'm very lucky to own one of his pieces. But do you see any influence from Ross Blackner on your work in some way?
Knowing Ross, what's kind of fun is that you see where he comes from, being in the studio and being a friend. This latest series, he has these real schematic things of brains, but then he turns it into a Blackner, and you would never know it was a brain, you know what I mean, like these synapses. Well, you know, I mean, he's very good at that kind of So again, it's like taking something out of a book and then turning into something special for you. You know, sometimes, like I said, images and things that I get from time to time, it's not, you can go anywhere and find a seductive, you can open a Vanity Fair and see a pretty face, but there's something that really compels you to kind of deal with it, that just kind of gets you, you know, just like a,
Sure.
like a mark,
Sure.
from, you know, like a Pollock throwing down a, you know what I mean?
You pursue the silhouette concept, kind of a way of viewing, which is fascinating to me because you are abstracting an image from an object. You're abstracting part of that, and you make it bold. That, you know, you can look at the picture and I keep imagining how tall is that person, how old is she, you know, and they start asking all those questions. Is she blonde? Is she brunette? And you know, and they start kind of engaging in that into that dialogue that is pretty much an abstraction.
Exactly, exactly. And scale becomes into play too, because my next series, I just ordered some 84-inch by 64-inch stretchers. Now that portrait over there will become something completely different. If you look at it just as form,
Right, right.
at that scale, it's going to be, I'm really excited about getting started on that. I'd like to even go bigger. I'm going to have to get another space.
Well, when you're ready, we'll help you out.
You can definitely handle that.
Yeah.
I'm at a point now where I'm getting some recognition overseas, and I also, but more importantly, I think people can finally recognize one of my pieces. So if it's out there, I think, oh, that looks like a Jeff Schneider. That, to me, is the greatest compliment. You know, like that famous quote that Rothko said. He was on his studio in Bowery Street, and somebody walked by, and there was a painting of his, and they said, oh, there's a Rothko. And he said, wow, I've become a noun. And I think that's, you know what I mean? I think that's really a compliment as an artist for somebody to say that's a Schneider. I remember scribbling in a notebook, tell your story. And I think that's key to whatever, all endeavors, whether you're, you know, painting or selling, you know, tell your story. That's what it's all about.